October 15th, 2014 from Kaufman Stadium in Kansas City, Missouri. It was Game 4 of the ALCS between the Baltimore Orioles and the Kansas City Royals. And on the mound for the Royals was Jason Vargas, and on the mound for the Orioles was Miguel Gonzalez. So in the top of the first, Vargas would set down the O's in order, and he would actually strike out the third batter of the inning, Adam Jones. So then in the bottom of the first, Escobar would end up reaching on an infield single to lead off the inning, and then Aoki was hit by a pitch, so we had 2 on, no out. Lorenzo Cain then sacrificed the runners into scoring position, so we had 1 out with Escobar on third and Aoki on second. Eric Hosmer came up to the plate and he hit into a fielder's choice. The first baseman ended up throwing it to home, but it was an error at the plate by the catcher, and Escobar was safe at home, and then Aoki ended up coming in to score as the ball was out in the back and the catcher was trying to recover it, and so 2 runs come across the plate, and the Kansas City Royals were in the lead in the first inning with the score 2-0. So now Butler would ground out and Gordon would walk, and then Perez ended up popping up, and the first came to a close, but not after Kansas City took the 2-0 lead over Baltimore. So then in the top of the second, Vargas would end up walking Nelson Cruz, but then Young hit into a double play. Hardy got a single, and Joseph ended up lining out. And so we headed to the bottom of the second. Gonzalez would strike out the first 2 batters, Infante and Moustakas, and then get Escobar to line out to bring a close to the second inning, and it was still 2-0 Royals over Orioles. So now in the top of the third, Ryan Flaherty led off, and he took Vargas deep as he hit it over 400 feet, and he put the Orioles on the board, and it was now 2-1 as Baltimore cut Kansas City's lead by 1 run. So now the next batter came up, Scope, and he struck out, and the next 2 batters got out, Markakis and Pierce, and so we headed to the bottom of the third, but not after Baltimore put a run on the scoreboard. So now Gonzalez would get Aoki out, and he struck out Cain, but Hosmer got a single, and then Butler got out, and the third came to a close. So after 3, it was 2-1 Royals over Orioles. So now in the top of the fourth, Jones would walk, and then Cruz struck out, and Young hit into a double play. And so now he headed to the bottom of the fourth. Alex Gordon got a leadoff walk, and then Perez hit into a double play. And then Infante got a single, and Moustakas grounded out, and that was it for the 4th inning, and it was still 2-1 Kansas City over Baltimore. Vargas would then set down the O's in order, and he actually struck out Joseph and Flaherty as the last 2 outs of the inning. Then in the bottom of the 5th, Gonzalez led up a leadoff single to Escobar, and then Aoki hit into a fielder's choice, and Escobar ended up out at second. But then Aoki ended up moving over to second on a wild pitch, but Cain ended up getting out, but Aoki was on third now, and Hosmer was given first base, and I had runners on the corners with 2 outs, and Butler ended up grounding out, and so that would bring the 5th to a close as they stranded a couple runners on base. And it was still, though, 2-1 Kansas City over Baltimore. So now in the top of the 6th, Scope would walk, and Markakis would strike out, and then Herrera came in to relieve Vargas. So Vargas was done for the day. Pierce then popped out, and Jones got a single, but then Cruz got out, and so we were headed to the bottom of the 6th. Gonzalez still on the mound. He actually hit Gordon, but then he got Perez out, and he walked Infante, so he had 2 on, 1 out, and Moustakas struck out. Darren O'Day would then come in to relieve Gonzalez, and he got Escobar out to end the inning. So after 6, it was 2-1 KC over Baltimore. Then in the top of the 7th, the O's went down in order as Young and Hardy grounded out, and then Joseph struck out. So Herrera set him down. So now Andrew Miller was in to pitch for Baltimore as he relieved O'Day in the bottom of the 7th, and he set down the Royals in order and actually got Eric Hosmer to strike out to end the 7th inning. So after 7, it was still 2-1 KC over Baltimore. Wade Davis then came in to pitch the 8th inning for Kansas City. He got Flaherty to fly out, And then Johnson came in to pinch hit for Scope, and he grounded out. Markakis then singled, but Pierce grounded out, and we were headed to the bottom of the 8th. Zach Britton then came in to pitch for Baltimore, and he ended up letting up a leadoff double to Billy Butler. So Butler got that double. Terrence Gordon then came in to pinch run for Butler, but then Gordon struck out and Perez grounded out. Gore was now on third, and Infante was given first, and Moustakas popped out, and that brought the 8th to a close as they stranded another runner 90 feet away. But after 8, the score was 2-1, Kansas City over Baltimore, and here came Greg Holland to close things out for Kansas City as he came in to pitch the top of the 9th. He ended up letting off a leadoff walk to Adam Jones. Then Cruz hit into a fielder's choice, and Jones was out at second. So now Cruz was on first, but they had Diaz to come in to pinch run for Cruz. And then Young came out to the plate, and Holland got him to strike out. So now the Orioles were down to their last out of 2014, and J.J. Hardy grounded out to third, and Mike Moustakas threw it over to Eric Hosmer at first, and the Kansas City Royals have swept the Baltimore Orioles as they win this game 2-1, and they take the series 4-0, and the Kansas City Royals are now headed to the World Series, where they are going to be facing either the San Francisco Giants or the St. Louis Cardinals. And in this game, Jason Vargas got the win. He pitched 5 1/3 innings. He only allowed 1 earned run and 2 hits and 3 walks, and he had 6 strikeouts. Herrera pitched 1 2/3 innings. He didn't allow any earned runs and only 1 hit, and he had 1 strikeout. Davis pitched an inning, did not allow an earned run, let up only 1 hit. Then Holland got the save. He came in for the 9th. He pitched the 1 inning. He did walk a batter. He did not allow any hits or earned runs, and he got a strikeout. As I said, he picked up the save. Gonzalez gets the loss. He pitched 5 2/3. He allowed 1 earned run and 4 hits and 4 bases on balls and had 4 strikeouts. So quite the pitching performance by both teams. The bullpen of Baltimore did a good job, but it was all for naught as Kansas City got those 2 runs in the first inning off of that error, and so Kansas City wins with an error in this game, a tight game, 2-1. There was only 1 RBI for Kansas City, and that was Eric Hosmer. He was 1 for 3, and I don't know how exactly they give him that RBI, how they're scoring that, but quite the game. Not much offense to speak of. Flaherty did have that home run. He was 1 for 3, but that was the only run for Baltimore. Billy Butler had a double. That was the only extra base hit other than that home run by Flaherty. Not a lot of offense. There was only 9 total hits in this game, 4 for Baltimore, 5 for Kansas City. The difference was that error in the first inning, and just amazing pitching from Kansas City, especially their bullpen, as they've been lights out. And Holland picks up the save, but the whole bullpen, Herrera and Davis, they both pitched excellent in relief. Vargas had a solid start, only letting up the 1 run, that home run, that 1 pitch, really. And in this game, Kansas City wins it 2-1 as they advance to the World Series, and they sweep the ALCS, and they are the American League champions for 2014, the Kansas City Royals.